we got quite an interesting episode of She-Hulk. Quite interesting. Let me ask you a question, Mike.
Yeah.
Do you know the term "jumping the shark"? Do you know that came from?
I do know the term "jumping the shark" came from Happy Days. There was an episode where Fonzie literally jumped a shark while he was water skiing.
Mm-hmm.
And many people say that's when the show jumped the shark. That's the term, jumping the shark.
The idea is the show had to get people to watch it, and so they did more and more outlandish things until they had Fonzie in a leather jacket jump over a shark on skis.
Yes.
And then everything. And then the idea is that the show becomes or is creatively bankrupt after that. There's other shows that have jumped the shark as well. I'm thinking of Family Ties. No, not Family Ties. Family Matters. When that Urkel thing, that Urkel character.
Oh, was this when Urkel became handsome Urkel? Is that when they jumped the shark?
I think they jumped the shark when they did American Gladiators. I think that was that was a high point.
I'm glad I never saw that episode.
Yeah, and then of course, was that show in San Francisco? God, was it
Full House?
Yeah, Full House. I think jumping the shark for Full House. That's a good question. When they jumped the shark for Full House, they jumped a few different sharks. Maybe when they had twin babies, that could have been it. Maybe I don't know. But there's many shows that have jumped sharks. I don't know if this show, She-Hulk, jumped the shark, and in tandem, the entire MCU has jumped the shark. But it's worth a discussion because the show kind of went to a place that we've never seen before. Both physically, mentally, and emotionally.
So are you saying you think that She-Hulk has now jumped the shark?
I'm saying that this episode has posed some questions that we need to answer. But that's what we're here for.
Was there a particular part of this episode that is the actual shark jumping event for you?
The not just the ending, but I don't want to ruin it.
The mid-credits?
This episode... Yeah, well, okay. So let's get the mid-credit scene out the way. I think what the show did. First of all, let's go over the show. For example, this episode was about Emil Blonsky getting parole.
Yeah,
so we're gonna go over that. But also, there was a character in the show who sued a light elf, Asgardian light elf, for impersonating Megan Thee Stallion and forcing him to give her thousands of dollars.
Yeah, $175,000.
Megan Thee Stallion made an appearance on the show, and at the end of the show, in the mid-credit scene, her and She-Hulk twerked on live television. We saw a CGI twerking.
Yeah,
which I don't think.
I think
which I'm what's.
You've been complaining about the CGI, and I haven't really had a problem with it until this episode.
Oof.
Just the way that suit hung off of She-Hulk looked so horrible. And then that mid-credit scene with her in the suit again, and now she's twerking. I just have to imagine it's during that scene, 1,000, or hundreds of thousands of visual effects artists were silenced or cried or whatever. It was awful.
Let's talk about the CGI for a second. Here's what I'm not understanding. At first, I thought, okay, these CGI visual effects guys don't know how to CGI a woman, and that's causing some problems.
Yeah.
Now I can just tell you right now, it's a money issue.
Yeah.
They're not funding this.
Right.
Marvel has done CGI characters many times to the point now where the Disney and Marvel shows where they're not on a live set. They're in a green weird screen that's circular, that's specially designed to help with the blue. Yeah,
I don't know if they're using that on this show at all.
No, they're not using the high end stuff. They're using whatever's left. I don't get it. The CGI is terrible, and I think here's my fear. My fear is that there's some kind of thing going on where this show didn't get the attention it needed to because there's a woman as a main character. I don't know what's going on, but you can see this episode. As soon as we saw She-Hulk it looked bad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not talking about the twerking. I'm just talking about any of that. I'm just talking about the actual...
When she first walked onto screen in this episode and I saw that suit hanging off of her, it's so bad. And, Marvel's parent company is Disney. Disney also owns Pixar. Pixar figured out how to have clothing drape off of characters 10, 20 years ago?
Mike, in Avengers Endgame, none of them were wearing the outfits that you were seeing on screen. All of those outfits were CGI. Every single one of them. Yeah. They all were CGI. They did that because they didn't know what kind of stuff they wanted them to wear. So they all were wearing CGI clothes. All of them. And they looked perfect. You couldn't tell the difference. You couldn't.
Yeah.
And they have the technology. We know they have it. They have more money than God, and they can't make She-Hulk look good. It is, and this is the first episode where it's like can't be forgiven. Like this is bad.
Yeah, it was not.
They got some issues.
It was not good at all. Okay, so my first question to you was going to be, return of my voice a little bit from last week, but not as bad. My first question to you is going to be, was this a stumble for She-Hulk? And I think, after our conversation just now, yes, it was most definitely a stumble. You have convinced me.
Well, okay, I will say, this is going to be a lot of talk about the twerking and Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah.
I don't really mind that because it was a fun episode, and just because they were having the type of fun that you don't particularly want to have. Like, so, for example, if you're watching She-Hulk and she's not throwing a truck through a building and you're like, well, this show sucks.
Yeah.
Like, that's on you, man. Like, this show might not be doing the fun that you want.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It just might not be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a different conversation. I can't forgive the CGI. Like, I just can't. I don't know. That's the biggest stumble they got right now is because every time, when you look at the Abomination turn into the Abomination this episode, he looked perfect.
Yeah, he looked really good. But he wasn't wearing a suit, know what's going on. So that helped out.
I just don't know. So yes, it was a stumble, and that's concerning because they have to keep doing the CGI moving forward. What might be happening is that we're getting some episodes where they don't have time. They didn't have the time to work on it, and maybe later we're going to see better CGI. But this is a problem that I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe fandom community should talk about. Like, get over the fact of Megan Thee Stallion. Get over the fact you saw twerking. Let's get over that because that's what it is. What it is. Like, that's a story element thing. Like, they could have had a person dressed up as She-Hulk twerking, right?
She looked good really in her She-Hulk lawyer clothes in the last episode.
The last episode, yeah. But this is
this suit, whatever it was about this suit. Like, they did not have the time or the money or whatever to work on it. It looked really, 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 really bad. I watched this episode twice. Did you watch it more than once?
Oh, okay. No, I watched it on the train on the way home.
All right. First time I watched it, not only was the CGI bad, the suit was horrible. But it also just felt like it was all over the place. The story. And I will admit, when I watched it the second time, I definitely had more fun watching it. But the first watch through just felt all over the place.
Yeah, let's finish the conversation on the CGI, and then let's go over the all over the placeness of the show.
All right, what else you got to say about the CGI?
The reason why the CGI conversation is important is because Marvel, and I'm just going to use Marvel, Disney, just put whatever. They have made a decision over the years to lean heavily on CGI. Right? They've made that decision.
Right.
They could have done practical effects. They decided not to.
Yeah.
I think over the years that decision has bear fruit. It looks pretty good most of the time to the point where it looks amazing other times.
Except for the helmets in the most recent Thor movie.
What about it?
The helmets in the most recent Thor movie looked...
Yeah, they look great.
No, they looked horrible.
Okay. Well,
are
you talking about what they...
Like the suits they were wearing were practical effects. And then for whatever reason, they just decided to make them wear completely CGI helmets that looked horrible.
The reason why they do that is because the design team doesn't know what they want to do with the assets yet. So they have the actors act, and then in tandem, the design team can make a bunch of adjustments to the look as they go. They can show 4 or 5 different movies with 4 or 5 different looks and see which one is most appealing. So from a business standpoint, from a workflow standpoint, it makes sense. Here's my problem. If you are going to if I was going to make a store and my store makes pancakes and I start making really nasty pancakes, I'm going out of business. And Disney, they can't produce this level of product and expect people not to get turned off to the point where I can't enjoy your show because I'm annoyed by how bad the CGI is. So that's why the conversation of CGI is important to have.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep.
Okay.
I agree.
Let's go over show notes. Let's talk about the story, the way the story is set up. Let's talk about the plot. Let's talk about the all-overness of it. And we also have a lot of comic book stuff to go over, too. So let's do it. Go ahead. Start us up, Mike.
All right. Her new law firm that she works for is GLK/H. GLK and H is how they pronounce it in the show. I've just been looking at that, and I can't help but look at it and see that it looks a heck of a lot like the word Hulk.
Yeah, it does not look at it. It's like green, and then they take the H out, move it around. Yeah, it does look like Hulk. Maybe is it on purpose? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
It's got to be on purpose. I'm assuming. Is there anything like that from the comics that you can tell us more about? I think that's also the name of her firm in the comics. Is what I've read on Twitter.
You read it on Twitter, on the tweet.
Yeah,
on the Twitter. You're on Twitter. You're on Twitter quite a bit, my friend.
Too much.
I'm not judging you. Are you a walking down the hall Twitter person? Are you a couch Twitter person? Are you a bathroom Twitter person?
Bathroom Twitter.
Yeah. I think 90% of people
not walking down the hall. That's wrong. Don't do that.
Yeah. Let's see. It looks like it is from the comics. It looks that way. I think from what I'm seeing, it's Goodman, Lieber, Kutzberg, and Holloway.
Right.
It looks like it's a.
It looks like they could like split up. Kick out that G person, hire somebody whose last name's like Umstead.
Yeah,
and then it's the whole law firm.
Yeah, I don't think it was originally like that.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting because it used to be GLK and B, but they changed it to GLK and H, probably because of the Hulk thing. Let me put it in the show notes so people can see it.
Okay.
But that's it. Yeah. What else you got?
You talked a little bit about it already. There is a new Asgardian shape-shifting light elf in the show, who shows up a few times as Megan Thee Stallion. Shows up as the client. What's his name?
I forget his name.
Yeah,
that guy's definitely
Dennis Bukowski. Yeah, her old coworker from the DA's office. And then also shows up as a judge. Anything you can tell us about Asgardian shape-shifting light elves?
Yeah, I can. So they are from the comics. As you know, Asgard had 9 realms, and we never really talked about this much. But Asgard is destroyed in the MCU. Does that mean all 9 realms were destroyed? I don't know, but it makes sense. There's a lot of refugees. So you have to remember,
Asgard one of the 9 realms?
Yes. Yeah. But here's the deal. People forget this. In Thor Ragnarok, a big ship that Loki took from Sakaar had a lot of slaves and former warriors on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they picked up the Asgardians. So when the Asgardians finally settled on Earth, it was the Asgardians, which probably had a couple different people that were of interest in like pedigrees and birth, but they also had a lot of aliens from Sakaar. So there's a lot of different aliens and different people on as the new Asgard. So that's kind of yes. Also, can I give a shout out?
Okay.
Josh Segarra. He is Pug in the show. That's his name.
Oh yeah.
He's the lawyer guy.
Yeah.
He played in the season 5 of Arrow, and he was a main villain in the show. He played Prometheus in the show. He was fantastic as the main villain. He was super awesome. Josh Segarra is a great actor. I'm curious to see what he's going to do next. He's very funny, but also can be very serious. If you like Josh Segarra, or if you're interested, go watch season 5 of Arrow right now. Just find it somewhere. It's a super great season of episodes. Really fun to watch. A cool comic shout out to him.
That's the guy that works for She-Hulk. On her first day, he gave her a map of the best toilet to poop in.
Correct. Very good.
Yeah. No.
All right. What else?
So light elves, they can shapeshift and all that?
Yeah, no, they can't. That's complete made up.
But light elves are a thing from the comics.
Light elves are a thing. They cannot shapeshift.
Do they have any,
I thought the shapeshifting light elves, though.
Any special things that make them light elves?
They can shoot arrows. That's it. No big deal.
Wait.
No. But I do like the light elf in this episode. I thought it was fun. I really liked the fact that this light elf was kind of bouncing around, shapeshifting, causing mischief. I like that a lot. I hope I see more of that. That's cool stuff. And so when we talk about the plot of the show, yes, it was all over the place, but I kind of feel like this show is trying to establish itself differently from the other shows, and it's relatively funny. I think that but the thing is, they're hitting for the fences. It's either funny or it's not. And so that's one of the things that's going on with it.
Right. Yeah, there were definitely a few parts where I laughed through this. So, like, some of their jokes landed for sure. What about you?
Mm-hmm. The jokes. I think the jokes are funny, but it's a certain kind of funny. One thing that made me really laugh is when Tatiana was driving the car and then she broke the fourth wall and just let her hands off the wheel and looked at us and talked to us.
Yeah.
That was just super fun. I really like that.
Also, the way that the paralegal tries to get Wong to get in contact with them is she sends him a thirst trap of picture with her and a bunch of books since he used to be a librarian.
That was pretty good. Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. And we get to see Wong's like LinkedIn profile, basically. It's kind of cool.
That was really good. Yeah. And Mike, was I wrong about Wong?
You were kind of wrong, and you're kind of right. So you said that Wong was helping Abomination like work through his mental issues and get control of himself by going through some battles with him. No, that's not what was happening. But the idea and the way that it works in the timeline kind of still sticks, right?
Yep.
So Wong busted Abomination out of prison as part of his training to become the Sorcerer Supreme.
Mm-hmm. It's a really good it's a really good way that kind of stitched Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man No Way Home, and this. It kind of wraps it all up. I like that a lot.
And the first movie that we learn that Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme is Shang-Chi, I think.
No.
Was it after Shang-Chi? Was it
It was Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah, yes. Okay, you're right.
So if you look at a timeline, he was training to be a Sorcerer Supreme in Shang-Chi, and then he was Sorcerer Supreme in No Way Home.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But okay, here's the problem though. There's one line from Shang-Chi that causes some problems here. In Shang-Chi, he opens a portal and he says, maybe we can watch your punches, or it was talking about how next time they do this, Abomination needs to watch how he was punching.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this show, She-Hulk, and the producers here were kind of fixing some stuff up from Shang-Chi. I'm pretty sure the Shang-Chi appearance with Wong and Abomination was never meant to come to She-Hulk, but then they were like, okay, we have this, let's finesse it, we can play with it. Because if you go back and watch that scene with She-Hulk, it doesn't feel like this was training. It feels like something different. But it works. It's like it's like one of those Lego pieces. It's like you have two 4-piece Lego pieces with the two, 4 things on it, and you got like a 3-piece. It's fine. It fits okay. It works. Let's move on.
Okay. You play with Legos differently from me, but all right.
That's true.
At one point in here, a reporter says that She-Hulk was rumored to have been rejected by the Avengers. And what I'm wondering, is this a callback to something that's happened in the comic books?
No, absolutely not. Every time She-Hulk wants to be an Avenger, she becomes an Avenger, no problem.
Okay. Interesting. Wonder why they put that in there.
I thought probably just funny. I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really know the Avengers protocols at this point. We don't even know who was leading the Avengers.
Are there even Avengers at this point?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we to be an Avenger.
Remember, Paul Rudd has to assemble the Avengers this time.
We think so. That's a theory.
Yeah.
Which is a really strong theory.
That's a strong one.
Yeah. In the comics, the Avengers have an infrastructure. They have a building based in New York that's paid for by Tony Stark.
Right.
They have a butler. They have a staff, and they also have permission and a charter with the U.S. government. So they have a lot of infrastructure in the Marvel.
Do they get paid? Do they get health care in the comics?
They get benefits. So they don't get paid, but they do get the health benefits and everything else through Iron Man. So like when you become an Avenger, you hang out at Avengers Mansion. You get free food, room and board, do what you want, right? But every once in a while, you have to go fight people,
right?
So, but in the MCU, that's not been established at all.
Yeah. We find out who, not Wong. We find out who Emil's 7 soulmates are.
Mm-hmm. A bunch of hippies living in a commune, baby.
Yeah. Not, I was thinking it was going to be like either the New Avengers or like some kind of villains. No, it's just hippie ladies.
I really hope that Emil is done, and I'm really hoping that he finds some peace. In the comics, he does not do that. In the comics, it's a complete disaster for him.
Yeah, it seems like it. It seems like he's going to live out the rest of his life full of peace and love. I'm worried that later on in the show he's going to come back and start beating up stuff, and I really don't want that. Maybe he's going to show up and like save some people's lives or something. But Tim Roth did a fantastic job with this. Yeah, he's good.
I hope he got a big payday.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was just fun to have him around, and it was a cool different thing. And this is the thing about She-Hulk that might be making fans mad. This show is not going to do what you want it to do. It's going to do what it wants to do. And like the show's premise. Remember, she kept saying, she says, "Don't forget whose show this is."
Right.
She keeps saying that, and like I think people are starting to realize, this is a different show. So it's going to be interesting.
Got any ideas for where Wong came from when he was testifying? It looked like he was coming from a fight.
Yeah, I mean, something happened. Maybe they'll go back to it later, but it looks like Comatage. He said he had lost track of time, right. So maybe they'll come to that some other point.
Yeah, he was a little out of breath when he got there.
Yeah, I'm digging Wong. I like that he was in the show. I'm hoping that we continue to see Wong in other properties like we've seen him now, and kind of like keep threading the needle. It's good stuff.
You talked about how you think, and this has happened in the comics some, is that you think that Jennifer Walters is going to get stuck as She-Hulk, and that's going to be her struggle in this series.
Mm.
And I said, I hope not, and I think her struggle is going to be being in the public eye.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I definitely think, after this episode that I'm right on that. That's the angle they're going for here.
I think it could be a little bit of both. I think that she's at first she's being kind of hedgy about the public eye, and then she's going to embrace it and really love, because we see these scenes where she's wearing a dress, right, and she's like She-Hulk, and then she's like,
that's the evolution, right? Right now, it's she's fooling herself into thinking that once this high profile case with Emil is over, she can kind of go back to being an unknown person that nobody's going to pay attention to. And her friend Nikki and Emil are like having to talk to her like, no, you are living in a fantasy world. You're never going to be out of the public eye from this point on. So you're going to have to get used to it.
Yeah, and the idea is like she gets in the public eye, she starts liking the attention. I'm thinking that something's going to happen to make her not like the attention. The whole point of the show is to get... Yeah, the whole point of this show is to get her to accept the fact that she's a superhero and that her job is to save people's lives.
Right.
And wherever kind of avenue we get to that point, it's fine with me. So we'll see how it goes. But Tatiana's a great actor. This show was kind of pushing some boundaries, and I'm curious to see how far they're going to push it. But overall, I think we're both correct about what the dynamic of the show.
Yeah. Emil gets paroled.
Yeah.
So he's out of prison now.
He has to wear an inhibitor to keep himself from changing, and he can't change back to Abomination ever again, but goes back to jail, which signals to me that at some point he's going to change back to the Abomination. at some point.
Yeah, and we don't see they don't show this in the episode, but that him wearing an inhibitor is an idea that Jen got from Dennis Pukowski, her jerky former coworker, after his trial. And she must have mentioned that to the parole board before his final readout or whatever.
The only time we've seen inhibitors in this show, in the MCU, is when Hulk wore one in the first episode of She-Hulk.
Right.
I didn't know that was an actual thing, so I didn't know that
it's not an superheroes. Actual thing. It's something that Bruce invented. Dennis Pukowski's like, I wish there was a way we could make that light elf pay and like lose her powers. And that's when Jen's like, oh, hey, Bruce made this inhibitor thing. I can talk to the parole board. They can see that Emil's never going to be able to be the abomination again as long as he wears this.
Yeah, and from a storytelling element, you don't introduce something like that unless you go use it later. So you should wait. You should almost bank on the fact that she'll wear one at some point. Either somebody will put it on her or something will happen. And there's more plot elements that later on in our show notes that kind of tie into that. Real quick though, in DC CW shows, inhibitors and stuff like that were very common. So really? So it depends. Everybody was wearing one, and they had the technology for it. And so it's interesting that MCU finally has that tech kind of out there.
Okay. I remembered this from an earlier conversation we had, but one of the reporters asks She-Hulk, is it true that you got your powers by a mafia hit gone wrong? And that's a callback, right? Mm-hmm. That's a callback to her origin story.
Yeah, it's a callback to her. Yeah. In her origin story from the comics, she got her powers from a mob hit gone wrong. Yeah, so it was really funny. Yeah. Mm-hmm, that was good.
Cool.
That was a really cute callback.
Yeah, and she's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so kind of at the end of the show, she's on her way home from the, getting Emil paroled, and some thugs come up on her. They start trying to rob her. She says, like, one guy's got like a bicycle helmet that's glowing, or like a construction helmet that's glowing. Another guy's got like a mace. Some guy's got a crowbar that's glowing. She's like, what, did you guys rob an Asgardian construction worker? And one of the thugs is like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
welcome to the Wrecking Crew. This is from the comics. They are 100% from the comics. Their characters' names: Wrecker, Pile Driver, Bulldozer, and Thunderball. And one of the characters, if you remember, was called Thunderball in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oddly enough, the Thunderball character was black in the comics. He's not black here, which I'm just going to let that pass. Okay, so here's what happened in the comics. The guy named the Wrecker finds a crowbar and gets hit by lightning, and the four of them gain superpowers. Now, I read the MarvelFandom.com to try to figure out where they got their powers from.
Mm-hmm.
For my remembrance, Loki gave them those powers in the comics to fight Thor.
Okay.
Now, but it does not say that in the fandom.
Yeah.
I think I'm right. I kind of remember that correctly. But in the comics, all of them have super strength and superpowers. So the crowbar has magical abilities. All of them have magical abilities, and so they were definitely Thor villains in the comics. So right now they're a joke. She just beat them up and threw them around.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, they could be a real threat, or they could say a joke.
Yeah.
I hope that the Wrecking Crew isn't just a couple of guys doing cosplay, but we'll just have to wait and see. But it's kind of fun to see as soon as I saw them, I was like, "That's the Wrecking Crew." That's because in the comics they got their power from Loki. He's an Asgardian, and then they made that mention in the episode. So there you go.
Cool. I did not expect them to actually be from the comics in any way, shape, or form. So that's cool.
That's why you listen to our podcast, man.
That's right.
Listen to our podcast.
That's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
They said their boss is going to be angry. Who do you think that guy is?
Here's my theory. One of them tried to get Jen's blood. The needle just failed. Now, we have seen this show delve into the Incredible Hulk, right? Because we have Emil, correct?
That's right.
There's another character from the Incredible Hulk movie that was always rumored to be, if they did a sequel to an Incredible Hulk, he would be in it. And technically, he is part of the MCU. The actor's name is Tim Blake Nelson. And in the comics, he's Samuel Stearns. He's the doctor, Mr. Blue, who took Banner's blood, experimented with it, created all kinds of stuff with it.
Yeah.
And then that's the guy who gave Emil the blood.
He was seemingly left for dead by Abomination and the Incredible Hulk.
But at the end, Banner's blood went into a wound on his skull, and it made his skull get bigger. I don't like to make predictions.
Yeah.
It's a 60 to 40. It's a 60% chance you will see Tim Blake Nelson as the leader in this show, which would be incredible. Which would be super
he's
fun
a fantastic
for the fans.
actor.
Yeah, and this has been an open thing that no one has finished or fleshed out since that scene where he got his blood on his head and his head. So everybody's talked about the scene. Where is he? Where's the leader? Where's Samuel Stern? Is Tim Blake Nelson going to do this?
Right.
I think it's kind of like a softball that they should do it.
Mm-hmm.
And someone trying to get Jen's blood, that's in his wheelhouse, man. That's something he would do.
Yeah.
So what will he do it?
Makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense to me. I'm worried about being disappointed. I'm really worried. So I'm just going to say it's a strong maybe, but it's a strong maybe.
Tim Blake Nelson was a fantastic actor in the Watchmen series on HBO.
Ooh, I haven't seen that.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I need to watch it.
You need to watch
Everybody
that.
says so.
It's really good.
I read the Watchmen graphic novel several times. I understand and I respect the Watchmen as an enterprise. That's what it is.
But
I've had to choose between playing No Man's Sky or watching.
It's a one-off series.
I heard it's great.
It's a mini series.
Yeah, I heard it's great. I heard it's great.
Yeah,
I heard it's great. At some point, I'm going to take a day off work. Yeah, I'm going to watch TV like everybody else. Because apparently, I don't know how you guys have so much time to watch TV. Really don't.
Well, you play more video games than we do. So
I play video games for about 5 hours a day. So that's probably why.
That's a lot.
All right. We already talked about the mid-credit scenes. Let's finish up our discussion with the mid-credit scene, Mike.
Okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. All right, what?
Scale 1 to 10, how disturbed were you about the scene?
I mean, I don't know. Twerking is weird to me to begin with. And then seeing She-Hulk do that in that stupid suit with the horrible visual effects, it's just like, why? Like, you don't need to leave this in. Why did you leave this in?
I mean,
I didn't need to spend any more seconds with She-Hulk in that horrible suit.
So here's what happened. The director, the producers, the writers, the showrunners, they all watched the episode. They watched the scene with the twerking and Megan Thee Stallion. They all saw how bad the CGI was.
Right.
Someone had to make the call. Just do it. Just show it. Just release it.
I mean,
do it.
They didn't fix it in the rest of the episode. Why fix it in the mid-credit scene?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I think Megan Thee Stallion showing up is fun. I think that there was a lot of jokes that's funny with Megan Thee Stallion. I think that the humor is different. I think they're trying to do something different. I'm fine with the way they're trying to have fun. I will let the show do the show what the show wants to do. Right. And there was a cool moment after She-Hulk fought the Wrecking Crew where she looked at in a window of her and like a window and saw her reflection and made her introspective for a second, which I respect and thought that was a cool moment, right? Mm-hmm. So there's some deeper level storytelling going on here. I have a huge problem. If you're going to use CGI as a storytelling tool, do it right. And then not doing it right. If this happens again for next episode, we have to have a more serious discussions about it, because at this point, you might as well just draw a cartoon of She-Hulk and have her walk around. It might look better, you know?
Like I said, they haven't really had horrible problems. Like, I thought the CGI was fine in the first couple of episodes. It's just that suit. Like, whatever it is. She wore a lawyer suit in the previous episode. It looked fine to me. It's just this... Like, her... I don't know. Her proportions didn't even look right.
Yeah. And a lot of people tell us that at some point, technology is going to make it so CGI will be unrecognizable.
She looked very skinny. Like, when she was wearing that suit.
Yeah. Mike, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think the human brain and eyes are constantly looking for falsehoods. And we can just tell. Yeah. And so we can see CGI and think, that looks really good, but I know it's CGI. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we'll ever get to the point where, like, we can't tell the difference. I don't think so. And our brains get very angry when we see something so fake try to be real. Right. And that's one of the reasons why we're having this reaction, because we know it's wrong. They try to trick us.
Yeah.
So how about this? Listeners, I know you guys don't email us because we don't get any emails from you. But in this case, send us a message on Twitter. Find Mike, find me on Twitter. Are we going overboard?
At Super Sideshow on Twitter.
At Super Sideshow on Twitter. Are we going overboard or are we correct? That's the question here. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
That's it, right?
Mike,
we're done with the episode.
That's it. We're done with the episode. Now it's time for news you can't abuse.
Been waiting for this.
Ready? Are you really?
Yeah.
First up, we talked about Wonder Man coming to MCU. I didn't know Ben Kingsley was going to come with it. We got our boy back. We got Trevor Slater from Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3. Yeah, Iron Man 3 and Shang-Chi fame. He's going to be in Wonder Man, which is crazy to me.
The fact that there is a Wonder Man TV series is crazy to me.
The fact that Ben Kingsley is sitting at home reading a book, he gets a phone call. He's like, hey, man, we need you to play Trevor Slater again. Are you down? He's like, oh, yeah, I am down. I won an Oscar. I played Gandhi. I don't care. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, man. I mean, it seems like it's a fun character to play. I don't know.
I just don't understand why Ben Kingsley wants to do it. Like at some point, wouldn't Ben Kingsley be like, I'm good, man. I'm good. But instead, he's like, sign me up. So
yeah,
I have to watch Wonder Man. Of course, we're going to watch Wonder Man.
Yeah,
anyway,
of
course. But
I would have had no. I mean, we're going to watch a Marvel TV show regardless. But I would have never been looking forward to Wonder Man until they told me that Ben Kingsley was going to be playing Trevor Slattery in it. I really enjoyed him in Iron Man 3 and in Shang-Chi. So, like I said on Twitter, Ben Kingsley might be the person that single-handedly makes Iron Man 3 like a classic action movie.
No, it won't. That won't happen. So there you go. But Iron Man 3 is a Christmas movie, so don't forget that. Next up, news you can abuse. One of the showrunners, I think, one of the directors, Kate Koro, I said. I don't know how to pronounce it. Said this in an interview. So someone was asking about the cameos and was asking if Daredevil was going to be the last big cameo in She-Hulk, and they had this to say: no, I don't want to set people up for disappointment, but I will say that the remaining cameos are cameos from the comics, characters that haven't been seen before in the MCU. So that kind of debunks my leader, but we did not get to see the leader in the movies. We've never seen the leader on screen. So
you mean the leader of the Wrecking Crew?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm curious to see who else we will see. It might be fun. And we got a lot more episodes to go. So
all right.
So Mike, let me ask you a question. You listen to the show.
Mm-hmm.
You're loving it. Having a great time as always. How do you get other people to enjoy the show as much as you're enjoying it now?
Hit the share button right now. Share this episode with your friends. You've got friends that you are either talking to about She-Hulk or you want to talk to them about She-Hulk. This is your chance. Send them a link. Say, hey, what did you think of the latest She-Hulk episode? I thought it was a little off. Did you like it? What's up? Talk to them about it. Also, you've got to subscribe. You've got to follow. You've got to rate. You've got to review. You got to do all that because we're going to keep talking about She-Hulk until it's over. And then after that, movies are coming out. We've got Wakanda Forever to talk about next.
Lots of work to do.
Yeah.
Lots of fun work. It's not work. It's fun.
It's fun. Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. Super fun. Super fun.
Right.
Tell your friends. Tell all your friends. Tell them to listen to us. If you watch us on YouTube, leave a comment.
Yeah.
Say that we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. You know? We love comments.
Leave a mean comment. That's fun. Yeah, we love them. Yeah, it's the best. It's the best.
Yeah.
All right. So we will see you guys next time for She-Hulk episode 4. We hope to God that the CGI is better.
Please. It can't get much worse.
It can get worse, Mike. It can get a lot worse. It can. All right.
See you next time.